Last week, I sat down with SantiZap and recorded my very first interview ever. He is a super nice dude and was incredibly generous with his time. So we talked about everything from where he got his start in content creation to why he doesn't cover AEW content anymore. And of course, since this is my first interview ever, I made a couple of mistakes. Like, I asked him a question twice, but I left it in because his second answer was so good. And I want to keep improving and interview more creators in the space. So in the comments, let me know which creators you want me to interview next. And if you're a creator yourself, reach out. My DMs on Twitter are wide open. Also, if you enjoy interviews and wrestling discussions, then consider subscribing. All right, enough of me yapping. Enjoy this interview with the one, the only, SantiZap. Mr. SantiZap, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me. I'm looking forward to chatting some wrestling, man.
That's it. I actually just wanted to thank you just to start off because you always preach about giving younger creators opportunities, and I'm a younger creator in this space. And so I just wanted to thank you for, taking the time out of your busy day. I'm sure it's busy as hell, but yeah, I wanted to thank you.
No, I thank you for having me on. I do appreciate, when I see smaller creators that are trying to get their foot in the door, trying to take a swing at bringing, a bigger creator on. I know it's getting out of your comfort zone to make that ask. And I know that we've been going back and forth for a while to try and make this happen. So I'm happy that we were able to finally get an actual time here so we can sit down and chat.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. First off, I wanted to ask, how busy was Mania month for you? Because I can imagine.
Dude. Yeah, Mania. Well, I mean, like it's like the 4 days of WrestleMania. Like I think collectively, I might have gotten like 3-4 hours worth of sleep, just because I would stay up after WrestleMania to do like a post WrestleMania show on the Twitch, watch the press conference, and then I'm trying to be one of the first ones up with a full review up. So I'm recording that, and then I'm waiting for the editor, and then by the time like I look at the clock, it's 5 a.m. and then I gotta wake up at 10 a.m. now to watch the freaking Slammy Awards for some reason.
How useful was the Slammy Awards? Of your
Not at all. Not at all. It could have been an email.
I went on Twitter the next day and I was just like, there was the Slammies this morning? I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know. But I want to start at the beginning of your whole content experience. Where did you get your inspiration to start making content?
I mean, like for me, it goes way further back than people probably imagine. I mean, I've been an internet gremlin really since the onset of internet forums. So I've been watching YouTube since like 2006, 2007. So my roots to content creation go as far back as those days. Like there's the content creators from back in the day, like the SXE Phil, which is now Philip DeFranco's, like those inspired me to try and start vlogging when I was in high school. Those were terrible videos. And then I came back and I tried to do skits. And then 2011 rolls around and I finally kind of, I guess, hit oil. And I finally strike something that works with an audience. And that was Call of Duty videos. Back when Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, Black Ops 2, Modern Warfare 3 were a thing, I started making videos on that, and it actually grew to a fairly sizable YouTube channel of just under 200,000, which back in the day, back in the early 2010s, was like a pretty big YouTube channel. But the monetization back then just wasn't the same, but it was a good extra source of income to pay for my beers while I was in college, which was nice. But the wrestling stuff didn't really start until 2022, if you can believe that. So it's fairly recent. I was doing live streaming, playing games like Dark Souls on Twitch to like 30, 50 people, which don't get me wrong, like that's a good amount of viewers on Twitch. And what was neat is that I had like an enclave of like 6 viewers that were really into wrestling that allowed me to geek out about wrestling while I was playing Dark Souls with them. I decided to then do what's called on Twitch a subathon, which is you keep live streaming and it doesn't end so long as people keep subbing. And as I guess as a incentive to get people to subscribe, you put like milestones. And one of the milestones that I put was for like 50 subscribers that I would do a 5-episode pilot of a wrestling podcast. Wow. And that ended up becoming what was the Straight Shoot Wrestling podcast that I started back in 2022 with another content creator named Mr. Tesh. So that's where the roots of the wrestling content creation started, and then went up on my own, and now we're here today.
Wow, that's crazy. So then where did TikTok kind of come into this? Because that's where I guess you really saw your boom.
On wrestling, yes, for sure. That's where I saw the boom. There were, like, I'm be honest, like we just straight up copy these guys. I cannot remember their TikTok name, but they did something called Guess the Athlete. They gave themselves 60 seconds, and we're just like, let's just do that for wrestling. There's nobody else doing it. And on wrestling TikTok, we noticed a big gap in edited content. There was a lot of people pointing their phones at their face and talking, and I don't want to say we revolutionized anything. All we did was bring a microphone and editing to things and putting a JPEG picture of the wrestler we were trying to guess. But that was enough production to make us stand out on TikTok from the traditional Wrestle Talk creator. And it also brought something fun to the sphere rather than just discussion, something more like trivia, which it's really easy for people to, of all languages, really, because it's not such some like really deep-hearted discussion. You know, somebody from India, where we had a lot of viewers, could very easily, even if they don't fully speak English, understand that we're trying to guess the Great Khali or trying to guess John Cena. And I think that's because of the simplicity of it and how easy it was to maybe relate to the stress of whoever it is that's trying to guess the wrestler. Maybe that's why I made it take off. But we were lucky enough that our very first upload got 400,000 views, like overnight. Wow. Like it really was an overnight hit.
That's awesome. Yeah, I know. I've seen some of those videos, and I've been yelling at my phone like, it's this guy, it's clearly this guy. And I'm like, I don't know how. I don't know how they don't. Your co-host doesn't get it there.
It's funny because like we've put a lot of people to the test, like, okay, try it. Right. And then once the clock is on and the camera is on them, a lot of choking on words for sure.
And then when did you kind of transition into more reaction type content?
Well, the reaction type content was always supplementary to what I was doing. It was never, I'm going to go now do this. I was always doing my live streaming, and two of the live streams of the week turned into watching wrestling, because now all of a sudden I had a wrestling audience, and now it wasn't just an enclave of 5-6 people. Now we were talking about 80, 90, almost 100 people that really liked wrestling. So it made it really easy for me to, frankly, be lazy, because it is easy content to do reaction content, but it's also really fun because you're surrounded by people that are nerding out over the same thing. But I guess if you want to call it a transition, it would have been January 2023.
Right. Yeah. There seems to be like this really big need right now to kind of connect with a lot of creators in the space. And I think that your Twitch stream does that really well.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that. I do believe that that's the value that I bring to this space. I've actually turned down working with some professional wrestlers. Aside from Hulk Hogan, I was like, I'm not turning that down. That's Hulk freaking Hogan. But I've turned down the opportunity to work with wrestlers that are active and wrestlers from the past, because I firmly believe that my value to viewers is that I'm next to you on the couch. I'm not that guy that has all of this crazy access backstage. I'm at the stage where if I wanted to be that, I think I could, because of the size of my following. But that's just not the inherent value that I provide. I think the value that I provide is I'm next to you on the couch. I'm experiencing things with you, alongside you at the same time, on the same level.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you said on your latest podcast episode that the wrestling market's only 5% tapped into right now in terms of creators. And I feel like there is space for those other creators to start coming in and being like, you know what? Santi's got this, I'm going to skyrocket. And that's completely okay.
Yeah, I do believe that wrestling is barely been touched in terms of content creation. Like, look at different niches on places like YouTube, right? Obviously, there's a big one, but gaming, there was a moment when it wasn't big. I was around when gaming was just getting big, when there wasn't a thing as a gaming channel with 1 million subscribers. Now, you know, you look at the gaming niche, there's many channels with over 10 million. There's gaming channels with over 30 million. It's common left, right, and center to find gaming channels over 1 million subscribers on YouTube. You look at wrestling, there's 2. There's BDE, WrestleMania, and Dankops. He doesn't really post anymore. So that just shows you how early on this niche is, that there's currently only really 3 creators that have crossed that 1 million threshold. Mm-hmm. There's just so much room for things to grow on wrestling, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, because I would say that in the 2010s, it was this thing that was very, niche, very underground, something that a lot of wrestling fans weren't proud to project to the world. But right now, like, it's the reason I call the podcast what it is. Wrestling is cool. Like, it's becoming mainstream. It's going to hit Netflix. I don't think people realize the reach that's going to give the WWE. 260 million people are subscribed to Netflix that are going to have access to on-demand WWE. That's nuts.
Yeah.
So I feel like if you're in now, like, you got in early.
Right.
And there's still plenty of time to get in early.
Yeah. And I'm excited to kind of see the ratings discussion drop, because we're so head over heels about ratings. And it's like, no one really talks about WWE ratings unless it's like football season and then Raw has a 1-3.
Unless they're bad.
Even then it's a 1-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's going to be crazy when it goes over to Netflix. And I'm kind of excited to see what WWE does with that opportunity and where they end up, like how much they can really grow by being one of the first live products to be tapped into a streaming market.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been trailblazers for all of this company's faults. They're the ones that popularized pay-per-view.
Right.
Then they were the ones that popularized starting your own streaming platform to get to feed fans your own service as opposed to being part of another one. And then they popularized selling your rights to other companies for streaming services. And now they're not going to be the only ones that do this. Like, every other organization is got a magnifying glass on how the WWE performs with its move to Netflix, and so many are going to make the move.
Right. Yeah, it kind of reminds me a little bit of esports in some ways, because they're kind of like the guinea pigs. Like, they're very much the guinea pig type market, where it's like these bigger companies are like, all right, we kind of see this, we see esports, but should we invest in it? Is it really a good investment? Should companies like in Canada or Rogers, start a radio show about it? And I feel like wrestling's kind of in that same era where it's like, we believe it's big right now, but it's going to get huge and just, like you said, when it moves to Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, we just had Sirius XM grab Busted Open Radio. It wasn't like too recent, but there's a mainstream method of information and communication trying to make sure that they have a footing in the wrestling sphere.
Right.
Like, I'm confident that this thing is going to get even bigger.
Right. With your reaction content, there's a lot of these creators that are, seeing your success, and they also want to tap into whatever you got going on. But what makes you stand out from the rest? Because your numbers are just like insane on TikTok.
Sure.
And so it's like, why is this guy getting views as opposed to these other people?
Yeah, I don't think that I stand out in any particular way, aside from I was maybe the first one to get a lot of views doing it. And I happened to get in at a time where wrestling was on its rise. So there is a big luck component to it as well. But then I also see a lot of these new creators that are trying to get into the space, and then that's all they're doing. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but reaction content is inherently lazy, and it takes little to no effort, which means the barrier of entry is almost none. You have a camera, you have the ability to screen record. Congratulations, my friend, you're a reactor. And I sniffed that out. That's why I didn't stay in just reaction. That's why I upload YouTube videos every single day, all scripted content. Patreon gets 5 to 6 videos a week at this point. And I believe for me now, the reason why I continue to get bigger as a reaction is because sometimes social media can be a bit of a kingmaker system. Whoever is already at the top, when something gets popular, people are going to look up that thing and they're going to see me first, which, is what it is. I'm very fortunate for that, but I don't think that I stand out in any particular way. But I guess I've just been around for so long that now my face is associated with the reactions that people want to see. I do encourage people to start reactions, but I really believe that it's very, very lazy content. I do it, and I'm telling you, it's lazy content. You should really be focusing on other things as well, and that's what I've been preaching to my content creator friends in the space, to make sure to not pigeonhole yourself as just the guy that watches WWE or AEW, because for every YouTuber that starts, there's probably 1,000 reactors on TikTok. Like it's tougher to get big on YouTube. Yes, the effort is much higher, but it also means that the barrier of entry is so much more difficult.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Meanwhile, on TikTok, it's just so easy to get in and do it. But are my reactions special? Are they? No, like it's subjective, really. You find the person that you connect with the most on a personal level, and that's who you watch.
Right. Even I saw a tweet from Conman, and he was saying that that wrestling hot takes is something that will get you a lot of viewers to start, but then it's not going to retain your audience.
Of course.
And I kind of see that from like the Mr. Beast angle. Mr. Beast was saying that if someone watches your video, great, but what's going to make them return the following 100%. Week is a good take. And I kind of connected the two. And if you end up saying, let's just say, oh, my wrestling hot take is that Liv Morgan sucks right now, and she's not meant to be women's champion, then all of the Liv Morgan fans, maybe even, the greater audience there is going to be like, that's kind of a weird take. I don't really like that. I know I saw this, but I'm not going to subscribe to this guy. And that's the last time they watch you.
100%. I do believe that first impressions are incredibly important as a content creator. And if your first impression and the many first impressions, because there's technically infinite first impressions that you can make on social media, and many of your first impressions that you put out there are controversial takes or things that are designed to get clicks or views because you're trying to elicit a negative emotional response from somebody, it works in the short term. Like it's just a fundamental fact of social media marketing. Like you're going to get the view. It might get spread for a little while, but in terms of being able to build a foundation off of that, build something that's actually scalable, it's darn near impossible.
Have you seen any luck in YouTube Shorts?
Yes, but it just kind of depends on what you determine to be luck. The thing is that YouTube Shorts, what I deem a success for me on YouTube is getting views on long form. And I really believe that you could use YouTube Shorts to drive traffic to long form, and they haven't figured that out. You can dude, there are so many YouTube channels that I've seen that'll have 1 million subscribers, which is so difficult to do. But these people only post shorts, and then they go to post something long form and they get like 2,000 views. So like they haven't figured that out yet. So I see the value if you are doing everything else as well.
Okay. I see where you're coming from there. Going back to your TikTok, at some point it got banned, right? Were you getting strikes? Like, did you care that you were getting strikes? It's like, screw it. If this thing gets banned, it gets banned.
No, I cared. I absolutely cared. That was my account, my first account that had nearly 600,000 followers on TikTok back in August when it got banned. Like, honestly, I was just like mad that it got taken down because, well, it was a great marketing avenue for me to get my name out there, to get people to come to like my live streams, Patreon, YouTube. But more so, like, I was just mad because it was AEW, and I obviously have no right to use their content, but if WWE sees the value in content creators spreading the word about their content, I just don't see how AEW doesn't. If anything, it should be AEW that's using these guerrilla tactics to get their name out there and work with social media content creators. And it goes beyond just reactions. Like, they're very adverse in general to work with content creators. and work with social media influencers, which genuinely baffles me. I really feel like because they're at the end of the day, like they're still qualified as a startup, and startups should be taking advantage of every single avenue of free marketing that they could possibly get. So it's pretty baffling that AEW would not even issue warnings. They just issue copyright strikes, which is like that's getting shot in the back of the head in content creator terms. Because then the platforms have no choice but to take you down. Since then, like I provide very little to almost no coverage of AEW, and it's not I hate AEW because I watch it every week. But why would I put myself in the firing line for frankly lower views, because AEW gets just inherently lower searches, but also putting myself at risk of endangering my livelihood? Why would I do that? Right. I really feel like they need to reevaluate their relationship with content creators.
Yeah. It really very much reminds me of when reaction content was first starting to get big. A lot of these creators were copyright striking if you were reacting, if you were reposting anything. But then like the TikTok boom happened, and there's been all of these channels that are just like farm clips, just like Sketch, right? Sketch he's so big because there's so many different TikTok, the best of Sketch, the, best moments, top 10 best moments. And I'm watching every single one of them because I think this guy's hilarious. And then I'll go and watch his stream.
Yeah, Mr. Beast has given free reign to anybody that wants to clip all of his stuff and put it on social media, because he knows that the one who, like that creator might make money right there, but the one that's earning the long tail is Mr. Beast himself, because people are going to want to find his New York's and not cut up content. Mm-hmm. And I really feel like, AEW should look into that. Maybe hire a better social media guru over there, because I just don't think that they're doing it right. I just don't think that their relationship with online creators is where it should be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, going over to more of your YouTube channel, the main long form content that you do is wrestling discussions. Why is that your focus?
On YouTube, it's my focus because I want to make sure that when you go to one platform, you're not getting the same thing from me. That's my selling point, to get you to come to Twitch, and then from Twitch to YouTube. It's like this little triangle. You're only going to get this here, but if you go over here, you're going to get something else. If you go over here, you're going to get something else. Just to make sure that it's just, I don't need to go to Santi's YouTube because I already saw his stuff on TikTok. That's my personal social media content strategy. And it's on YouTube, it's just better served there as well, because people that are on YouTube that are searching for long form content just are willing to have more of an attention span. They're willing to sit through a 20, 30-minute video. They pop it on while they're having dinner or while they're doing their laundry. So from a strategy point of view, it works really well there.
So the idea of your podcast, that kind of came from just being like, I want to tap into as many markets as possible.
Partly, yeah. The podcast is also just like an outlet for me to be able to geek out about professional wrestling. Like if you want to look, at the two lenses of Santi, if you want to look at the professional lens, I want to have my foot out in the podcast space. I want to be out on audio services. I'm trying to be everywhere. But then from a personal standpoint, like, it's just fun. I like the weekly discussion, to be able to geek out about what I love.
Right. And then with Sancho, why did you choose him to be your co-host? Because he's a great personality when he was posting more gaming stuff. Mm-hmm. But then, you wanted to start a podcast, and I guess he was the one that really stood out for you.
Yeah, Sancho. I mean, I've known of Sancho for a very, very long time in the esports space, gaming. So I know that he's a great communicator. I know that you can put him on the spot and he can be entertaining. So from that point of view, it was just like, I mean, it's kind of like a no-brainer. Just bringing somebody along that is going to be a quick fit and not need to be trained up, as opposed to maybe just grabbing somebody that likes wrestling but isn't particularly super comfortable with sitting down and being entertaining for over an hour. I knew that Sancho immediately delivers that. Two, weirdly enough, a selling point of for me with Sancho was that he wasn't a wrestling content creator. I like the fact that he wasn't knee deep in the bullshit that can be the world of professional wrestling content creation. Because to me, he just seemed like a untainted brain, right? Like he was just somebody that was consuming wrestling and enjoying it. And to me, that was a selling point because then we were providing two similar yet very different points of views. You know, we had me, the wrestling content creator, and then Sancho, the wrestling fan. Now he's become a wrestling content creator since, but to me, that was a really early on selling point of bringing Sancho into the game. And he's incredibly likable as well.
Hey, I just wanted to let you know that you are halfway into this interview. I appreciate it. If you're enjoying so far, then consider subscribing. Also grab some water. All right, back to the video. Right. Yeah, no, and what's crazy is to kind of see you go from all of these different platforms and to see every single one of them do very well. Right. And I feel like you guys, like you were saying, bounce off each other very well. Is there an end goal for this podcast? Do you guys kind of have like your 1 year, not really, I don't know if you have a 5 year, but like definitely like a 1 year goal for your podcast?
You know, that I don't really think that we have anything set out yet. I don't know, because the question is, what is long term? Because you even kind of alluded to how difficult it is to determine what long term is. Is it 1 year? Is it 5 years? Is it 10 years? No, we haven't sat down and actually had that conversation of what the long term goal here is for the podcast. We believe that the podcast can become the biggest wrestling podcast on the planet because of the same selling point that I told you earlier, that we are not former wrestlers. We are not backstage dirt sheet people. We are fans that are experiencing the product just like you and just like Sally at home. I believe right now, I might be wrong, that we're already the biggest fan-run wrestling podcast because almost every single wrestling podcast is run by a former wrestler or news outlet. And when you like, it's cool. Talk is Jericho's fantastic, but you can't relate to Chris Jericho. Right. That's Chris Jericho. You can't relate to anything relating to Chris Jericho. It's a super cool, unique look to get into the head of these wrestlers, but you'll never be on the same couch as them. You'll never be able to, oh, you know what? Like Sancho has this thought about this thing. Oh, he didn't like, oh, that was me too. I was thinking the same thing. You can't do that when you're listening to the Eric Bischoff podcast. You can't, because it's a different universe at that point.
Yeah, I know when a podcast really has me hooked, because I do my full-time job, I'm a janitor. And when I'm cleaning schools, you know, that job's kind of boring. So it's like, I want to listen to a podcast to let the time pass by. And I know that when a podcast really hooked me is when I'm kind of like responding in a sense. Right? When you're just kind of daydreaming and you're thinking of responses and being like, no, it's not. Or like, you know, if you or Sancho has a take and I'm like, that's a dumb take.
That's a dumb, and they're mostly probably from Sancho. But yeah, that's the thing. But like, let's say Eric Bischoff says something ridiculous. You can't be like, Eric, you're wrong. Like, that's Eric Bischoff. Right. You can't, you're not on the same level as him. You'll never be able to relate to anything that's coming out of his mouth. The relationship between a podcast listener, like me and you and wrestling fans versus those podcast hosts that are former wrestlers, industry veterans, it's not two-way. You're just listening to them because they are the experts. Sancho and I are just two schmucks that you can disagree with, and you would be entirely valid in your disagreement. And I think that that's the value of our podcast.
Right. Now kind of thinking about Twitter. I know that's kind of a weird market. We call it the IWC. We call it our fans, you know, things like that. What do you think that the IWC needs to do better? Because they have a pretty bad reputation as it stands.
Sure.
But what do you think that fans of wrestling just need to do a little better?
I think that the IWC needs to realize that they don't matter. They are a loud, tiny minority. Like in the grand scheme of things, do not matter. There is the very rare occasions with the We Want Cody movement, but that wasn't driven by the internet wrestling community. That was worldwide. It genuinely was. And the IWC needs to recognize that we are a vacuum in space where we think that this thing that we are discussing feverishly is also something that everyone that's watching WWE is also discussing feverishly, which is just not the case. I think we need to realize that we ain't is basically what I'm trying to get at.
That's good. That's a good life lesson. What do you think that they need to do better? Like, yes, we are but you know, we're all kind of a part of it. We're this small minority. And what's interesting is sometimes the small minority shows on TV and I'm like, oh, that's the same reaction as the people are having. Like Def Rebel, like not a lot of people love those theme songs and it's being heavily talked about. What do you think they need to do like better?
The IWC, WWE?
The IWC. Like I know you said that they need to realize that they you know, they're really not anything, but do they have to have like a more open mind?
I just think that they just need to be more positive in general. Right. Like I look at this ridiculous hamster wheel of toxicity. I'm told you don't do enough AEW content. Okay, I will do AEW content. Then I'll have a huge group of people being like, ew, why are you doing AEW content? And then AEW fans will be like, look at this WWE shill trying to do AEW content. Like, dude, I can't win. Like, stop being so gatekeepy about this. Just let people enjoy what they want to enjoy. Like in terms of doing anything better, like I just think that they need to be better humans.
Right.
And realize that you know, like there are humans on the other side of these Twitter profiles. Because sometimes they just behave like there's no one on the other side.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it kind of, I know that the negative stands out more than the positive because, you know, firsthand experience, I'm a fan, right? I'm a fan of creators. I'm a smaller creator, you know, wanting to get into this space. But I started off as a fan of you, of PvE. And when I agree with one of your takes or when I agree with a take on the internet, usually I won't really pay it any attention. I scroll on Twitter and I'm like, oh, I agree with that. And then I just keep scrolling. And yeah, a lot of creators, the negative will stand out where it's like, why aren't you doing AEW content? And then you do it and you know, people don't like it or they think you're a shill. So yeah, I think that on the flip side, more creators also need to realize that the positive should be talked about a lot more. Or maybe
100%.
the IWC needs to realize if you have something positive to say, you should say it.
Yeah. It's interesting you say that. I only focus on the positives now on Twitter. I do not give attention to anything toxic, anything that's clearly trying to elicit a negative reaction out of me or the wider community. I just don't pay it any attention.
Right.
Yeah. And then I'll block whoever says that. And then of course it'll be like, oh my God, look at this guy. He blocked me. It's just like, dude, if you don't like me, why do you care that I blocked you? I'm doing you a favor. I'm doing you a favor.
It's true. It is true. Yeah. Now speaking about your content back on YouTube, one problem that I run into sometimes, I don't really have that much time to post daily, so I post weekly. And there are obviously months like the month of March where it will be WrestleMania month. It's all the way leading up to WrestleMania. You're going to see top 10 WrestleMania moments. You're going to see top 10, best opening matches to WrestleMania. Has there ever been a PLE themed content that you've thought of after a PLE and you were like, darn, I should have capitalized on that?
No, but I still have something that relates to this.
Okay.
My dumbass went on vacation to Portugal during Survivor Series.
Right. I saw that.
And because this is my job, like I was like, I'm going to get myself a second hotel room and I'm still going to be able to do this. And then CM Punk appears. Like, are you kidding? And I can't react. I can't really allow my emotions to really come out out of me because it's 4 a.m., 5 a.m. in the morning in Portugal. So nothing that I've missed where I've said like, I should have done that at this time so it got more views, but definitely a lesson learned of like, don't go on vacation when there's a WWE PLE, or maybe leave more often and people like CM Punk come back. I don't know. Maybe it was the world telling me that I should step away from wrestling and then everything will be good. Everything will heal itself.
Well, we got the Santi meme of you in the background going like this.
Yes, because I'm trying to contain all noises because it is 5 a.m. where I'm at.
Right. No, it was so good. And then you do a monthly series. I thought it was weekly, but it's monthly. These months are going by way too fast. But you post a monthly wrestling hot take series.
No, that's weekly. That is weekly.
Oh, it's weekly. Okay, good.
Yeah, it's every weekend. Yeah.
So I wanted to know, what is your wrestling hot take? Because you ask everyone else and no one asks you.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I mean, my my wrestling hot take is that the powers that be, that there was probably a group within the WWE that desperately did not want Day 1 2022 to happen. Because that's where Roman Reigns was scheduled to lose the championship to Brock Lesnar. And then he had COVID. So then they put Brock Lesnar to go win the WWE championship. And this allowed Roman Reigns to continue on for like another 1,000 days as champion. My hot take is that was predetermined. Somebody in the WWE is like, no, this is a terrible idea. Roman, stay home. You have COVID. Do not come in. You cannot lose the championship. Because I always look back as, as a wrestling historian that likes to go back and look at things like that. May be the single most important night in professional wrestling over the past 5 years. Roman Reigns not losing the championship that night. Like, just imagine how widely different the landscape of professional wrestling would be had Roman Reigns actually dropped the championship at Day 1 to Brock Lesnar. I firmly believe that Reigns, his entourage, and some people that really believe that Vince McMahon was making a shitty decision told Reigns to pretend he had COVID. That's my hot take.
Another hot take. Do you think Cody could have lost at WrestleMania 40?
Oh God, that's difficult. Could he? Sure. But then you're doing more damage than good, in my opinion. And I think that part of you're doing damage not just to the expectation of fans, because at the end of the day, like, you need to give fans a payoff for sticking around with the story for so long. You can't keep dangling the carrot and continue to keep them going and going. Eventually, you're going to get fan resentment. After he lost at 39, I already saw that fan resentment. But even then, I was like, hang on, there's lots of story to still tell here. Here, I feel like he would have lost just for the sake of trying to keep us hanging on. And I don't think that that's a good enough reason to swerve us, to not give us the payoff that we have been so patiently waiting for.
Right.
On top of that, think about what the reputation damage that this would do to the Royal Rumble. Back-to-back Royal Rumble victories and back-to-back losses. I don't know, man. That's a tough pill to swallow.
Right. Yeah, like, I think where I was coming from with that is, to be a little bit transparent, my wife was pregnant during the 2023 season. And I was like, you know what? I want to go on one last hurrah. I want to go to as many PLEs as possible close to Toronto. And I went to Montreal for the Elimination Chamber. Thought Sami was going to win. He didn't. Went to WrestleMania 39. Thought Cody was going to win. He didn't. Went to SummerSlam. I knew Jey Uso wasn't going to win. And he definitely didn't. And I at that point, I was like, I see what the WWE are trying to do. If they want Roman's reign to go on for as long as possible, I thought they were going to just keep doing the create a baby face, lose to Roman, create a big baby face, lose to Roman type of pattern that they were doing. And the fact that, we were so used to the Vince booking for so long. And when I listen to these creators, I'm like, oh man, they don't trust WWE at all to do the right thing. But with this new administration, I feel like Triple H is like, no, you can trust me. Like, don't worry.
I agree. I'm of the mind that right now Triple H has all the grace period in the world to allow things to work. So I find it so bizarre that people right now, a week and a half after Cody winning the championship, he hasn't defended the championship enough. Oh my God, the fans are already turning on Cody. I'm like, bro, it's been a week and a half.
Right.
Relax. Like, I would say if it was Vince McMahon, I feel like the ire would be warranted. But this is Triple H, a man that, in my opinion, has earned the right to let him cook, as the people say these days. He's earned the right to, if he wants to take his time, to take his time, because we have the proof that he's capable of delivering with what he did, as you saw at WrestleMania 40. Had he not delivered very well, I feel like maybe that's, the discussion is different, but the fact of the matter is that it delivered a great ending to a great story. And just because the story ended, like, we went from up here and, to no fault of Cody's own, like, inherently we're back down to ground zero. You can't expect Cody to go from up here and continue to go up here. This was a legendary, historic championship reign that was at over 1,300 days, and now it's down to one. He has to now build his own legacy, and a week and a half is not long enough.
Right. Yeah. I'm kind of in a weird situation as a fan when I see other fans being like, I don't like this decision. I don't like that decision. Because then I'm like, why don't you watch it more so as a TV show rather than you're the booker? Sure. Because, like, for example, a theory that I have is that Chad Gable is going to win at Backlash. But then I also then see fans saying like, but Sammy can't lose soon after Gunther's reign because Gunther's reign was so long. But then I'm like, but wait, Chad Gable's a heel. You want to hate him. And I feel like fans kind of get kind of in the middle between I hate this guy because I hate this guy, and I hate this guy because of the booking decision. And yeah, so but I think they're the same.
I think they are the same, but the language is different. And when you talk about fans getting angry about booking decisions, that's the IWC. That's what I mean. Of like, they just don't matter.
Right.
The people that are going to Monday Night Raws and the, millions of people that are watching from their TVs, they're not talking. I'm like, oh, what a weird booking decision. That's us, man.
Right.
That's us. And in the grand scheme of things, we don't matter.
Right. Yeah. One last thing about wrestling booking, because we could talk all day. Well, as a kid, I grew up, I know that you've said that you don't like this period of wrestling, but I grew up in the orange shirt John Cena period. That's when I first started watching wrestling.
Sure.
So I thought that him beating the Nexus was the best decision that the WWE's ever made.
Sure.
Because I was a kid. I was 10 years old, and I was like, I want John Cena to overcome these 10 guys. And he did, and I was like, yeah, let's go. And so, yeah, that's a little thing.
Did you go through a period, I'm just curious, in your teens where you stopped watching wrestling?
100%. So everyone's got that period. So I started watching wrestling around WrestleMania 25.
Okay.
And I stopped when Edge left. Right when Edge made that retirement promo, I was like, I as a Torontonian, I can't watch anymore.
Oh, you missed the summer of Punk.
I will. You're gonna ream me for this, but I missed Black and Gold NXT. I missed Daniel Bryan's Yes Movement.
Yes Movement, yeah.
Like you said, Summer of Punk. I missed everything. I missed all of that. And so when I finally came back, it was the Raw after Hell in a Cell when Cody Rhodes tore his pec. It opened with him, and I was like, why is this guy on top? Why is he so cool? And he cut that promo, and I was like, why am I almost tearing up? So,
right.
Yeah, that's what really hooked me back in there.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, that era that you missed, there was more bad than good.
Oh, yeah.
You listed like the good things of that era, but there was way more bad than good. Yeah, no, I bring that up because I'm starting to realize that the life cycle of a good amount of wrestling fans, I don't want to speak for everybody, is that they are wide-eyed children. They love it. No ifs, ands, or buts. They're not worried about the booking or anything like that. They're just enjoying the product for what it is. Then they get into their teenage years and they get into this weird, like, I don't know, man. I guess this is fake. I guess this is kind of lame. And they stop watching, and then they come back as adults. Like, why do I care what people think? This is cool.
Right. Was there a period where you stopped as well?
Yes, I did not watch, aside from like the really, really big shows like WrestleManias. I didn't watch from 2007 until The Rock came back to host WrestleMania 27.
Wow.
So I missed about from WrestleMania 24 to WrestleMania 27. That's when I got back into like that WrestleMania 27 season.
So we overlapped, basically.
Pretty much, yeah. Because I came back basically when you left.
Right. Wow.
I almost left again because it was so bad, though.
Yeah, I was like, Edge, my favorite wrestler is gone. So to wrap this up, this has been an awesome conversation, by the way. I really appreciate you taking the time with me. What is one thing that wrestling did in your life?
Oh. Well, I mean, it's what's putting food on my table. So I'm in a very unique situation where it's because of wrestling that I admittedly have the coolest job on the planet, which is to geek out about the thing that I love. But, aside from that, wrestling has allowed me to connect with the social nomads of the world, because I never had people in my inner circle, family members, friends that were into wrestling. But, with the onset of the internet, now I've been able to connect with people that were in the same boat as me. And now we're able to come into this like hive group where like we're no longer alone. We get to discuss this thing that we like online without fear of being shamed anymore. And I do feel like the shame thing is going to start to dissipate in the real world as well, because of how cool wrestling is getting with The Rock coming back and whatnot. But yeah, it's just allowed me to be unapologetically myself. Like, I like this thing and I want to geek out about this thing. And now we're in an age where it's really easy to connect with those people. But like, I remember, watching The Undertaker lose his streak in my dorm room with my laptop in the dark with no one to be like, no one to be able to have that reaction with. But now it's easily available to me, Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, whatever it might be.
I appreciate you taking the time with me to talk with me about wrestling and, have me geek out, asking you some of these questions. So yeah, I appreciate it, man.
For sure. Thanks so much for having me on. It was a good time.
See, I told you he's a super nice dude. I got to pick his brain for 45 minutes. So generous with his time. Plus, we talked a little bit beforehand, so that was more like an hour. And if you've enjoyed, then again, a sub would be amazing, especially if you've watched up until this point. Thank you all so much for watching and have a blessed day. Peace.